Hello. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm really excited to welcome you to this webinar today and to what's going to be a really interesting and insightful session where we're lucky enough to be joined by two very experienced legal professionals, but also those who have been using Lexis Plus AI, so have genuine insights of what it looks like in the real world. This isn't that kind of pontification around what could be, this is what is. And so I'm really delighted here to have Lindsay Howes and Adrian Falk. And I'll give you a little bit more detail for both of those. But the way we're going to structure today, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to some kind of thoughts that we have as we run through them. That'll give us a chance for everybody just to arrive into the room and get ready. And then we'll dive into the questions. And we've got some great questions today. Genuinely, for myself, I work on our product marketing side. So I spend a lot of time surrounded by legal professionals, but I'm not one myself. But what I consistently find remarkable is hearing the kind of insights and thoughts of those who are and what the impact is. And it's a daily inspiration to me. And that sounds cheesy, and it is quite cheesy, but it is a daily inspiration to me that the products and services that we provide to lawyers help make such a difference. And you'll hear the rule of law mentioned when LexisNexis are talking about things. It's not a kind of empty phrase. It's something that's genuinely meaningful to those of us who work within there. And so I'm inspired to come through. So let me get into the heart of this. So yeah, good afternoon and welcome to the business case for legal AI. I thank you deeply for joining us. This is really, the session is about moving beyond the hype and focusing on how AI is being used by legal professionals right now in practice to deliver measurable results. We know that for most of you, the question is not whether AI will impact legal work, but how to make it work safely, effectively, and credibly inside your firm or legal team. This hour, this conversation is about facts, not the forecasts. You're going to hear practicing lawyers who have already done it. They've proved the return on investment. They've gained buy-in from partners or other partners and leadership. And they've made AI a natural part of their everyday practice. But what does that sound like? What does that look like? Well, we're going to find out what the details of that is and everything in between. So at LexisNexis, we've spent decades, or ultimately centuries, helping lawyers combine knowledge, content, and nowadays technology to deliver better outcomes. With Lexis Plus AI, we're taking that further. We're bringing together trusted legal content, generative AI, and real-world workflows in kind of one secure environment. It's AI that's built for lawyers, not a generic chatbot trained on the internet. Every answer is grounded in authoritative sources, like the All England Law Reports, Holsbury's Laws, and we've got all of that practical guidance, practice notes, precedents. So you can trust the results, or at least you can trust the citations and be able to check those to make sure they come through. And you can act with confidence on that. Now, the results speak for themselves. Recently, we asked more than 1,800 Lexis Plus AI users whether Lexis Plus AI made them faster. And remarkably, 87% said yes. And in fact, we dove deeper. We went in and we asked a follow-up question. We said, look, how much faster? And we asked them to put a percentage terms on it. 7 out of 10 told us they were now at least 50% faster on these key legal tasks. So it's not just theory, it's time saved on real work every day without compromising the quality or risk, because it's always providing you with those linked legal citations. Now, today's discussion, we're going to explore how that kind of impact is achieved in practice. We'll look at tangible results in time, risk, and efficiency, and we'll show how legal teams are measuring and communicating those gains internally to get AI over the line. At the end of the session, we'll introduce the Lexis Plus AI Competitive Advantage Calculator, and that'll help you to have a look and have a play with what these time savings could look for you. Now, I'll be honest with you, they are not going to be an exact 100% science to your practice, but what they do help is explore that kind of thought process of, look, if I could save 5 hours a week, what does that look like? What would I use that for if I'm that much more efficient? You know, is it work-life balance? Is it business development? Is it more billable hours? What does it look like? Now, enough of me. We're joined by two outstanding panelists, and they bring different perspectives on what legal AI looks in practice. We have Adrian Falk, Managing Partner and Head of Property at Preston Redmond. He's been driving innovation within property law and ensuring technology supports both client experience and firm efficiency. He's led from the front in integrating AI into the firm's workflows, and his insights on building confidence and buy-in at that kind of partner level are invaluable for anyone who's navigating that same journey. Thank you, and welcome along, Adrian.
Hi there. Thanks so much, and welcome, David.
Thank you. And alongside him, we have Lindsay Howes, a partner in employment law at Hamer Solicitors. With over 20 years' experience advising both employers and employees, Lindsay has been at the forefront of integrating AI into everyday employment practice. She brings an honest practitioner's view of what has worked, what has not, and how to measure success meaningfully. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So, with that, let us begin. I know that you want me to. We're going to work through three main areas. We've got the kind of real use cases. That's kind of section one. The business case for AI and how to make it happen inside your firm. And then we'll finish with a look at the Lexis Plus AI competitive advantage calculator I mentioned earlier. But realistically, I know you're here for the good stuff. So let's dive into the real use cases. And I'm going to defer first to Lindsay. I wanted to see, Lindsay, if you could give an example to get us started of the first kind of practical way you used AI in your day-to-day work that made you realize this is a game changer.
Yeah, research. As an employment lawyer, it changes all the time. You're constantly sort of reading everything you can to say, am I up to date? You know, and sometimes you just think, right, I've done this before and I'm pretty sure that was the answer, but because it's such a vast area of law, you second guess yourself, and that can be uncomfortable. That can actually be quite stressful. It's the sort of thing that wakes you up in the middle of the night and you think, was I right? And I don't know, you know, this could be because I am a complete technophobe and because I didn't particularly get on well with the normal search engine on LexisNexis, but this really works. I can put in a normal question in basic English and I actually get an answer. I don't get 200 responses, none of which actually deal with the point that I've just asked. So it's, yeah, research for me has been a massive game changer. It's cut down a lot of time, heck of a lot of frustration in getting responses that didn't match anything like what I was hoping they would match. And it's just reassuring and quick. I mean, I think particularly if you are a smaller practice and there isn't huge numbers of people who may be practicing your area of law to bounce ideas off, this can be like the second lawyer in the room. And that's where it became a game changer for me. It was really, really useful in just researching and reassuring. They I suppose are the two things. That might sound rather strange to say reassuring, but yeah, I think we all do it. I think we'd be, but you're very confident if you don't ever second guess yourself as a lawyer.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's fascinating. And that phrase, that kind of like the second lawyer in the room, is always one that kind of interests me. Because I think it's that thing of how do we enable the kind of instinct and expertise and knowledge of people, and giving that help seems a useful way to do it, right?
It is. It really is. And then it's got just those little nifty bits that are just do save loads of time. Like, right, I've done the research. There's that nifty little button that turns it into a file note and you just stick it on the file and you've saved all that time as well. It's the little things sometimes, isn't it? I find that really handy.
No, I agree. I'm always amazed that the big flashy things, they're not the ones that get me. It's those day-to-day pieces. I love it. And as we think about the kind of tasks, and I guess, Adrian, it'd be interesting to have a think about like what's kind of one task or workflow, and it might be one you started with, or it might be one you've subsequently come across. But what is that one task or workflow where AI has made all the clear difference for you in speed or quality?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is going to become a bit of repetition here, I'm afraid, now, because the big task for me is very much research, as Lindsay says. Although it qualifies for more years than I'd care to mention now. I've got a curious mind, and whenever something comes up, you can save so much time by tapping it into Lexis AI Plus. And the benefit and the reassurance that you get with that is that everything is cross-referenced. So you can see where it's pulled the answer from, and it makes it very easy and quick to be able to actually check that the answer that AI is giving you is the correct one. And we had this in the office this morning, where one of my partners and I are both executors on an estate. Neither of us are actually private client lawyers, but we were the appointed executors for various reasons. A point came up. We both tapped it into Lexis AI. In that instance, actually, we got conflicting answers. So it comes down to how you prompt it. But we were able, because of the links to the source, to go back and very quickly establish which was the correct answer and then have a sensible conversation with our private client team about it. So really, I think for us, yes, there's lots of other great bells and whistles, but research significantly saves us time and gives us a fully backed up note. The amount of time otherwise it would take you to write up your research to put on the file, where all of the practitioners online will be aware. We're in the world now where, as far as our regulator is concerned, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So to actually put that footprint on the file that shows we've looked into it and we haven't just relied upon AI, but we've actually gone in and manually checked the answer is correct, that's where there's a huge saving in speed. But so it's not just all about research. I was drafting a somewhat complex lease this morning, and having got to the end of it where I was trying to integrate 2 or 3 documents and cross-reference lots into there, I then had the handy Lexis Create Plus icon within Word, and using that I could go in and click on it and ask it to proofread the document for me. And it came up with a couple of errant placeholders. Apparently I used its instead of its in one case as well. And again, that's saving time that otherwise would have taken my PA probably half an hour to go through the document and properly proofread it. So unexpected benefit. I'm not on commission, just in case anyone's wondering. But again, it did say it saved time. It wasn't the case that I was necessarily looking for, but it certainly saved time. I think it's probably fair to say, like a number in the profession, I'm always sort of slightly sceptical in terms of what AI is actually going to give us. But the big, for me, back to it again, is, I'm afraid, research. It's the time saving there is amazing.
Yeah, I think that's great. And actually, one of the things that I'll call out from this is not the one people expect, but it's that you got conflicting answers at one point. It's actually one of the strengths, I think, of Lexis Plus AI, because as you mentioned, you're able to go directly down to the source, right? And check that and use your skill, your knowledge, your experience to interrogate that. And we know that's a possibility anywhere. We know we can highly limit inaccurate answers, but we know that we can always provide the accurate citations. And I think that's one which I often celebrate, and people think is a bit strange, but it's really good to hear. And I obviously agree with both of you. Research comes up time and again. People absolutely rave about how much of a difference it's made. And actually, I think if I just stick with you for a minute, Adrian, and think a little bit deeper about AI and how it's changed things. So how has it changed the way that you might, I don't know, approach problem solving or client support? Because those are kind of, I guess, the broader issues that we might not initially think of.
So again, the problem solving almost comes back to research, to reading around the subject and to getting answers around the subject. But again, looking at the drafting of documentation, working on a precedent, it doesn't quite fit what we need. I need to prepare a clause to deal with whatever. Time again, I would either have free drafted the clause or otherwise gone into the clause bank to find the appropriate clause. I was able to use Create Plus to prepare in plain English to give it an instruction to prepare a clause to address certain points, referring to the defined terms within that. And I got a good first draft clause to insert, and the time saving there for it actually spitting it out within Word, so I didn't have to leave Word or anything else, compared to the time it would have taken me to otherwise go back into EFP, find the relevant clause and then copy and paste it and change the definitions. There is clearly a time saving there. Of course, it needs an experienced input. It needs somebody to be able who appreciates what the document and the law behind what we're trying to achieve is. But to have a first draft produced within less than a minute, which otherwise would have taken 5 or 10 minutes, again, is a clear time saving.
Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? And I guess what would be the kind of reflection point? I guess what's the experience change for your customers or the people that you're working with for you being able to go do that?
In a research perspective, you can be having a conversation with them, and you can, while you're having that conversation, easily tap into the prompt, what the problem is, and get a research answer back very quickly that you could almost weave into your conversation. Again, you need to sense check it to make sure that that's along the right lines. But as Lindsay said earlier, it gives you that reassurance that you were thinking this backs it up. In terms of client support and drafting, otherwise, probably speed means you can get work out a little bit quicker, takes slightly less time. But I don't think that there's a massive saving in that respect as yet for me. Certainly not. It's helpful as a drafting tool, but not the full package.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I think it's really interesting when we kind of look at how it changes the experience all around. And some places it's a bit of a win, some places it's largely the same, and some places it's transformative. And I guess actually that's where it's interesting, Lindsay, as we start to come across to you and we think of what you might say to a peer who still sees kind of AI as like an abstract idea rather than a practical tool. So they might kind of be like, yeah, I've heard of that. People rave or people are skeptical. It might be anything, but they can't quite get to what does it mean. I guess, what would you say to them?
I'd say I was that person. I was the skeptic in the room. I was the person saying, no, thank you. I don't trust it. You know, take all of our jobs. Yeah, I was the anti. I am known as the Luddite in the office. So, and it's almost hilarious that I am now the person who would be the advocate for it. So, yeah, that's actually quite. I've got egg on my face, shall we say? But yeah, I think the main thing you would say to somebody who is a skeptic is use it. You know, until you've used it, you really can't comment on how good it is at doing the things that we all do every single day as lawyers. And you know, gosh, I don't want to say research again, but I mean, you know, it is. But I mean, even maybe getting a clause that has maybe come from somewhere else, and you're thinking, goodness, how would you interpret that? That doesn't seem. You can put those in. It will give you an interpretation tool. You know, so it really does give you those starting points, and it's very useful because yeah, it's not a substitute for a trained lawyer. You can't rely on it on its own. You couldn't give it to somebody who was untrained and say, here you go, because you do have to have the discretion or the ability to exercise discretion and say, no, that isn't right, but go to the source material, go to the legislation, and that really helps. But I think for the skeptic, for the person who's a bit like, I'm not sure this could make a difference, there is no substitute for having a play. I mean, that's when it was being presented to us as a firm. I think, you know, when I'd been using the old Lexis and getting gobbledygook out, actually saying to the demonstrator, right, put this in, knowing what the answer was. And getting them to put it in and seeing it churn out the right answer and thinking, oh, all right then, that's quite handy. That's much better than the old version of searching and researching. So yeah, until you try it, you can't sort of criticize it. And yeah, it will remain abstract. It will remain something that you're probably, you know, uncertain about. But yeah, try it.
Yeah, I think that makes an awful lot of sense. Yeah, no, it does. I mean, it's really interesting as you talk about the kind of different use cases as well. And just, I don't know why it made me think of it, but I was speaking to a barrister, I think 2-3 months ago now, and he uses Lexis Plus AI, but you know, he was saying that he didn't realize this would be the use case for him, but he actually loves finding that there isn't an answer. And so, because he was like, his artwork, his art form is creating an argument, and he was like, I love using it to be able to establish there is no good answer. And then he gets to, you know, crack his knuckles and get to work. And so it's really interesting hearing people reflect on the different ways that it kind of takes them through and becomes something more than an abstract idea. And actually, it's really interesting, sticking with the fact that you kind of had that experience of being the one who wasn't sure and had come through. When you did first bring kind of AI into the organization, what were you hoping to achieve? And then, like, the second half of that really is, how's it worked out in reality?
Yeah, so I think I was hoping to achieve firstly some time saving, definitely time saving. Hoping to achieve feeling that you had more confidence in your research, because knowing the way that it sets things out with all the citations at the bottom, allowing you to click on them, move across to them, research that point then, and make sure it really is on, it's on all fours with what you're trying to achieve. It was that we were quite early adopters, so in the initial incantations of this, it was very much a research tool. It has moved on now, and I have to say I'm probably not the best person to talk about it, because as an employment lawyer I don't sort of draft many lengthy documents, and best will in the world, a staff handbook is not particularly exciting. But for some of my colleagues who do draft leases and sell companies and things like that, for them, seeing the changes that have been made and being able to identify things, that those bits that have added on since we first adopted it, that for them has again generated some time saving, helps you not miss things. So it's the second pair of eyes thing again. And I think it wasn't so much that I expected to achieve that, but it has been an unexpected and good consequence of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I think it's always interesting, isn't it? We have these expectations that we come to things with, and then it's a matter of look to reality. I'm fortunate enough to speak to many LexisNexis customers, and it's been very nice seeing people be surprised and getting more than they sort of expected from the capability. Now, actually, as we kind of look at this, I think taking a slight shift, thinking about work-life balance. And actually, Lindsay, I was going to ask you again, have you seen any different AI make any difference to the kind of work-life balance or well-being across your organization?
I mean, I think, again, for us as a firm, work-life balance has always been our USP. It's very, very important to us. I don't know if this makes us unusual. We do try to stick to office hours. We don't want people here. And that has definitely made this easier. We don't want people working at 8 o'clock in the evening on a Friday night. There's got to be better things to do with life than be in an office. People might be saying, what are you talking about? But that's certainly always been our approach. And just because you are saving time and because you're not spending ages researching, that really helps. But I think the other thing that is, again, because you've done that research and because you've been able to check it through all the citations, you're reassured by it. So you don't go home thinking, was I right? Was that, oh, should I go? You've already done that. It's done it for you. You've checked it. And I think that's the difference, that before, because it's so comprehensive in what it gives you and allows you to go and check them out, your work-life balance is better because you're not constantly thinking, have I done that right? Am I still going over it? You get a better night's sleep.
Yeah, and a bed night's sleep is valuable. I mean, I don't know, Adrian, whether you've had any similar experiences or if it's been helpful to you with that kind of additional kind of space to either work on other tasks or just balance things.
I think it's always helpful to have something that saves you a little bit of time in what you're doing, and the inbox is always self-refilling these days. So the more time that you can save and achieve, but it's having the reassurance that it's, Lindsay said, the second person in the room, so that you've got that second eye. If there's something that you're doing that you're not sure of, you can just tap it in and get an answer, much in the same way that you could research a point otherwise, but probably quicker. And it can just put your mind at rest if it's the last thing that you're doing at the end of the day.
Do you know, I can't remember who said it to me, but there was someone who said to me that they have found themselves researching things they wouldn't have otherwise researched on the basis that it made them go, I know the answer, I just want to double check it. And they're like, previously it would have taken too much time and they would have just had to have lived with it. Now they probably don't want me to say their name on that basis. But they were like, previously they would have lived with it, but this meant that they could just sense check it, and within a matter of essentially seconds, they could go, yep, that's what I thought, and crack on, feeling better about the day. Which I quite liked.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly it as well. It is that I can move on. I'm reassured. I don't have to keep worrying that I'm right. It really does generate that sense of well-being.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And actually, I think this leads into, and Adrian, I want to check in with you on how you communicate the value of AI to, I guess, a few different people. Like you've got the colleagues or the clients or other leaders. And are there any stories that have really resonated for you?
So probably the best way of communicating is showing and doing. When the talk of AI and for quite a few people, it is an abstract concept. The idea that you've somewhere got computers whirring away doing tasks that would otherwise have been done by a whole team of paralegals and clerks years gone by. That can sometimes be difficult to get across to people in the first place in terms of why they should trust the results. But actually, and I was sceptical, I think, in the outset as well, which is quite odd having sort of champion technology within our firm. But the way that I found is the best way to get it across to everyone is to actually, once you find something that works for you within the practical sphere that you're doing, to actually go and show it to your colleagues. And we do lunch and learns and team meetings where we showcase good practice. And actually to be able to demonstrate to others within my office and within my team, you can get these results by relatively quickly and easily, and you can check it, and you can reassure yourself that the answers that it's giving you are correct, or the points that it's bringing up are correct. Actually, if you can see it and you can see what's happening and how easy it is to do it yourself, I think it's a lot easier than just almost having an abstract sales call suggesting it. And that's how I would say it works.
Yeah, no, I can understand. You know what? I think that's one of the reasons why we have quite a lot of people who decide to apply for a trial of Lexis Plus AI, because there's nothing quite like, I think, Lindsay, you said it earlier, like you know the answer to something and you want to see what it will do, right? You're an expert in a practice area. It's that show don't tell, isn't it? Or do. I can see that.
David, I've just seen somebody's put a question in the box of, is the use of AI disclosed to clients? I don't know if you want me to tackle that now.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, and if you're happy to, then I think that'd be really.
Yeah. So I had the fun of attending the Solicitors Regulation Authority Compliance Conference a couple of weeks ago back in Birmingham, and one of the points there very much was the use of AI and the need for firms to have an AI policy and be conscious in terms of what you're doing with client data and not putting client data in the wider web. As a firm, we avoid putting client data into AI. We only subscribe to closed AI solutions anyway, predominantly Lexis AI Plus, but also we've got Copilot for some users that are on the professional version, which is locked within our office to our office system, so data doesn't go outside. But we're very conscious that when we put something into AI, be it a research task or proofreading a document, we've taken the client. There isn't a research task, there wouldn't be client-sensitive data anyway. Proofreading a document, it doesn't go outside of our system. Your system is secure in that sense, so there's no client data that's going out of the firm in that sense. And just seeing another question popping up about the PI position. Everything that we use AI for, predominantly research or proofreading or suggesting drafting, are things that are manually checked anyway. So they're things that we don't rely purely on research from AI. We always go back to look at the source to make sure that the answer that it's given is a true one and it's not a false positive. The proofreading of a document, we've already had a solicitor preparing the document in the first case, and this is checking for niceties as opposed to legal technicalities. So in that sense, we're not taking on any further risk. We're not allowing AI to rule on its own or become an AI ruling firm. It's simply that we're using it as a administrative tool alongside, but without putting client data out there into the wider web.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's a lot of people who will sort of be worried about AI, or they'll be saying we're not going to have AI. And then it turns out that I don't wish to mention other brands, but like they might have Copilot active, and so AI is already there, or people have gained access in other ways, and they're too tempted. So having something that gives that kind of secure, kind of enterprise level protection available for people does make a difference. It allows you to utilize it in a way that's safe. So I think it's always worth picking up on that. I do see another question, which look, I've had somebody answer to me in the past, and I'll share what they said to me. You can tell me whether they were telling me the truth or not. But there's a question here around preventing over-reliance on AI by junior staff and ensure they still develop a strong foundational legal reasoning. I challenged somebody about this a while back, so I was curious. They were a partner in a firm. But they said actually it's been transformational in terms of the juniors in their firm, because they said they used to be scared. I think the phrase they used was scared of their own tails, and they'd bring them work that they weren't really pleased with. Whereas now they can ask the questions that they're scared to ask the partner of AI. And I loved it. It made me laugh. But they're like, what they found is they're getting much better work and much better thinking through of the work, because they've been free to ask the question, the difficult question, the one that you're embarrassed to check on, and then bring it to them. And when questioned, they've been able to go, well, this is why. Now, that was their view on it. I don't know whether for either of you that rings true or not.
We've certainly seen we have limited use of AI for trainees, but where they do use it, it's within the Lexis system, and we very much drill down that use it for information, use it to do initial research, but we do expect you to have fully checked what it's come up with, and where trainees are undertaking research using AI, in much the same way as where they're undertaking any other research, when they bring it back to the person who's supervising their work, they will get grilled on it. And we will make sure that they have gone back to basics, they have checked it, and that they're not just idly relying on it. And that's important, really, to hammer home that you can't blindly rely on AI, but also to make sure that they do still have those genuine basic research skills that we all need. And sometimes technology doesn't work, and you do need to be able to go back to basics if it's having an off day.
Yep, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I think it's a supervision point, really. I think it's very easy that if they've just stuck in a question into AI, come and see you with the answer, if you like, and don't really understand the answer, then it very quickly comes unstuck, and you say, you've just put a question in AI here, haven't you? And you've used the Lexis bot, and brilliant though it is, you've not really understood it because you've just blindly relied on it. So I think you can very quickly see if somebody's genuinely doing the research or whether they're just blindly asking a question. And it really does just come down to the supervision of trainees, in my view. And if you are properly supervising someone, they're going to really understand the client question, and they're going to then, if they understand what the question is, then they know what they're trying to achieve from it, and then you can easily iron that out. I mean, it's just another form of plagiarism to a certain extent if they don't understand it. Ask a few questions. If they look at you blank, they've just taken it as read and they've not really gone into the subject. So AI, for me, I think Adrian would agree, is a starting point. You then go and look at what's behind it. And if the trainee has only looked at the initial answer to the question, you're going to pick that up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that makes
absolutely sense. Agree.
Fantastic. Well, so actually, I've got another question here, Adrian, where I wanted to check in what the biggest hurdles were to getting AI across the line for you and the team. Like, how did you overcome them? Or I guess, what were they and how did you overcome them?
Probably, as we got to a moment ago, convincing people that actually this fanciful computer farm somewhere, supposedly with the code generation doing the work and not a human doing it, could be relied upon and was actually real. I was something at the Law Society last night on AI and AML, where they were predicting a future in 10 or 15 years' time where we didn't use a passport to identify ourselves anymore, and we're identified by our online profile. So I think it's trying to actually show people that it is real and show people that it can be relied upon to an extent, and the importance there. I think a lot of this comes back to research, and probably I'm guessing because that's predominantly, I think, where Lindsay and I, although we haven't met before today's chat, have used the AI solution is to assist with research. I certainly at this stage wouldn't be comfortable setting AI off to draft a lease for me. That's probably because I'm a little bit too controlling on my documents and the time and the style in which I like to draft, and others may well be more relaxed. But really, I think the biggest hurdle was showing that it's real, showing that it can be relied upon, and showing that it can actually have value. Because there's not an hour that goes by where somebody's not shouting about AI doing this, or I asked AI what I was going to have for breakfast today, and things like that, which is a bit of a nonsense. And actually, as a lawyer, particularly if you're not getting involved in the tech side of it, to actually cut through the hype and think, okay, where is there going to be genuine value for me? And once you can demonstrate to people that there is genuine value and that it can genuinely help them by saving time, giving them a pointer in the right direction, or otherwise, that's the big hurdle, and getting over it. Once somebody can see there's value, they're prepared to give it a go. And the biggest development you can then see is when you do give it a go, you scratch the surface and you find that it can be useful. So it's showing people how to discover it for themselves, but also how to discover it quickly, because an AI project can be quite daunting for anyone. And if somebody thinks that they're going to have to spend hours training it or hours getting used to it, when they've already got a big caseload sitting on their desk, they're not going to be willing to put the time in. They'll carry on doing what they've done before because that's the easiest way. But if you can quickly show somebody, and it works showing your peers, so you quickly show your peers, I've done this on AI, it gave me a quick start, it saved me 20 minutes, what do you reckon? Have a go. That then actually sets people off and gets them running.
And I think, without wishing to put you too much on the spot, is it fair to say that the investment in getting it has paid off?
Yes, definitely. I'm trying to find something other than research, but research alone, yes, it has, definitely.
Yeah. Well, and I think actually that's fine though, right? Because actually, if it pays for itself in time through the savings on research for you specifically, and for other firms it'll be different things, and it's actually all that matters, I guess.
Yeah.
Just as I reflect that back, would that be true for you as well, Lindsay, in terms of the investment has turned out to be worth it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the investment has more than paid for itself. If in no other way, then I'm significantly less grumpy. So
a win, an absolute win.
Ask my colleagues, complete win.
I love it. Well, I feel like this next question might be somewhat related then. So how did you build confidence within your team or organization that AI could be trusted? Maybe it was your smiling visage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they went, crikey, she's found some technology she likes. It must be good. She's not screaming at the AI, at the IT guy saying, why is this not working? So yeah, I mean, in all seriousness, building confidence was getting them to use it. And somebody asking you a question, then saying, well, what research have you done? Oh, it doesn't, we haven't. And then showing them how they can use it, and then realizing how easy it was, rather than, I did find the search engine in the old LexisNexis really quite painful. It, like I said before, it would give you, 300-400 different answers, none of them that you actually wanted, or seemed to bear any resemblance to what you'd just put in. Or at least that was my experience. Whereas now I do feel that you put it in, you don't have that frustration of it giving you things that aren't even vaguely relevant, going over and using it. And I do feel I did have colleagues who found the same, that it felt like you had to be incredibly precise and use the exact wording they wanted you to use in order for it to generate anything that was of any use to you. And then, and because of that, I think everyone sort of rolled their eyes at me and thought, yeah, it'll be exactly the same. But actually just getting them to use it and them going, actually, this really does work. And yeah, the confidence grew as well from our perspective, and Adrian touched on it, that it is closed. It's not, and it doesn't learn. If I put in a question, it's not learning from my question. It's only learning from the same LexisNexis people who were piling the information into it in the first place. So it's not as though it's going out and, you might randomly get some law from Australia that you might if you used an external system. It's only looking at LexisNexis, therefore it's only looking at the law of England and Wales, and therefore you're not going to get a random answer in that regard. So that builds confidence as well, because we did have a few people here saying, oh, I don't trust AI, it'll be learning, and okay, we don't put client information in. You don't often need to, I don't think, for research particularly. But it isn't learning anyway, and it's not remembering it. So it's not even, remembering it so that other people in this office could see it. And that again was about feeling confident in it, and knowing that it wasn't, going to splurge lots of information about you out there in the wider web. So yeah, all of that created confidence in the team. Just explaining what this really was and what the product was helped, as much as using it, that it was a safe product, if you like.
I love it. And I think it's really helpful context. And I also love the fact that everybody watching knows that you'll be honest, completely honest, because you've told us about the LexisNexis search from previous. And I love that, because that gives an authenticity to this that I could never provide. So I love it. And actually, I think, what is it that helped you secure your internal buy-in and address the skepticism from stakeholders? Because there must have been some at the start. Because actually, for you, you were very early, weren't you? You were really right at the forefront of picking this up.
Yeah, we were. We were really, really early. I mean, I could be really cynical and say you just had a great sales guy. No,
he is brilliant.
He is brilliant, but no, it wasn't that. It was probably the demo. Actually, it was. We had the meeting, and then we did the demonstration whilst we were doing it, and it was that really got it over the line, and showing its user friendliness. I don't know how many other lawyers are out there who are not particularly tech savvy. I know there are some who very much are, but I'm not. So the ease with which the usability of it was really what sold it to me. That was what I really liked. So that got it over the board for me. My co-partners were more on board with it anyway. So I was the person who needed convincing. They've not been inclined to go down technology to help make things more efficient and cost effective and better work-life balance. I said that's something we're keen on. So yeah, I was the sticking point, and it was really the demo that got it over the line, and being able to ask those questions that I've already touched on about it being a closed model. I think the word's hallucinating, but everyone's going to laugh at me now. But it doesn't do that. So it was all those things that really got it over the line. Knowing it felt safe to use. It didn't feel like it was out there in that big evil world that is the internet, and these giant computers gathering my information. So yeah, it was that. It felt safe, and it did what it said on the tin.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I think it is so important to be able to see it, because actually, as we look out in this, we've not seen technological change like this in really ever that I've experienced, certainly. And there's a lot of claims out there, right? There's a lot of people talking about what they can or could do. Seeing it in action tends to be the thing that makes people go, wait a minute, it's actually doing what you said it would do. and that is wildly impactful in terms of, I guess, trust, right? And as you say, whilst all AI has the capacity to create strange content sometimes, the security and safety of knowing that you've got those legal citations is remarkable. And I can give you a little bit of insight. We've had some research recently. 61% of lawyers are using generative AI based on the research we've done, and 30% of that are using a legal AI of some description, and 31% are using just general AIs. It's an awful lot of risk sitting out there, and it's one that we just have to see how that all turns out. I'll leave that hanging in the air, and I'll move on, because actually this is sort of bringing us towards the end of our questions. But Adrian, I've got a good one for you to finish. What one piece of advice would you give to someone who is preparing to make the case for AI in their own organization?
I think they've got to really get into it themselves first. Make sure you know what it is that you actually want it to do. If you're going to try and persuade your partnership that they need to invest, it can be a significant investment depending upon the number of people, in AI tools, then actually have some real evidence yourself in terms of what it does for you, so you can then actually talk almost, dare I say it, passionately to your partners in terms of, this is what it can do, this is how I've used it, this is how it saved me time, or this is how it's given me peace of mind. And I'm a great believer in, if you can demonstrate that quickly and easily, and show it as being a simple tool that will work within your firm and that it is safe, because Lindsay's touched on the importance here of really the safety of it. And I think to an extent probably Lexis has our trust, because you've been around, you are a trusted brand, and we take you at face value when you say that it is a closed loop and that it only generates itself upon your content. But actually, if you believe in it yourself, and if you can benefit from it yourself, and you can show those benefits to your partners, then you're going to get it over the line. If you've got somebody, and I don't think we really have very much of a sales pitch, so I'm not going to give any kudos to the sales guys there. But I was at a conference recently where somebody was demonstrating their latest AI tool, and were raving about things that it can do for NDAs and share purchase agreements and this, that, and the other. And I'm sure actually they wouldn't know what one of those was if it bit them on the nose. But if you've actually got somebody who is practicing law and is working in your office and can show you how it actually impacts them and saves them time or gives them a benefit, then that's all the convincing you need. As a partnership, you rely upon each other. And if it works for one of you and they can show you that it works, then people are going to give it a go and you'll get it over the line.
I think that's really powerful. I think you're absolutely right about the kind of legal professional view being paramount. And actually that's where the rubber hits the road, right? That's the experience, that's the knowledge. And I think it's such a fair point that you have to be able to demonstrate, and sometimes that means using it. And so that's why we sometimes, I come from a marketing perspective, right? I really want people to get a demonstration, or I really want people to get a trial. And that's because it's allowing them to see it in action and to get evidence for themselves around what the next step could look for them. Because I say it sometimes, it's really cheesy, but I'm really proud of the work that LexisNexis as an organization does around rule of law. And I'm really excited to see what it is that tools like this can do in terms of increasing capacity and quality, and just enabling a group of professionals who we just need. And so it is cheesy, and I acknowledge that and hold my hand up to it. But also, it's nice to have a purpose, right? And having that and knowing that we're doing something really good makes a huge difference. So that starts to bring us through where we start to get into our wrap up. Now, I'm aware that we've got a few Q&A bits there. We're not planning to do a huge Q&A session to end this off. Please do hold your hands up if there's anything in there that you'd like to jump into. I don't know, Lindsay, whether you wanted to also just offer any piece of advice to somebody who was reviewing AI for their organization, just because I've heard you speak so eloquently to it before. Sorry, we've got you on mute.
Yeah, I'm on mute. I suppose, yeah, in two minds about whether or not it's going to be right for your organisation, I think you only have to do what lawyers do every day. Really, it's life more efficient, reassuring. I I jokingly said to you the other day that it's become my new best friend in the office, and so and that, I mean, that does sound a bit sort of cheesy, doesn't it? But it's because it does just save a lot of time and headache, um, and in a trusted format, in a way that I can check it. I'm not just putting it in, giving an answer with no context. It's not giving an answer without support. And that means that very occasionally you'll put something in, you'll tap on the case law, and you'll think that's completely off point. That isn't what that what they've said or what they've interpreted from that doesn't actually work. And that's good as well, but it because it shows you that you can use it in a very, you still need a legal mind. It isn't just, I mean, one of the questions I saw came up and suggested is it taking away from the lawyer? How do you make sure that the legal mind is still being used? I think it was more probably in the context of trainees, but that's how you know, because if you give a trainee a slightly easier job to do, don't you? You know the answer already. You give them the job to do. If they've come back with something that's gobbledygook, you know that actually they have just followed the box. So it is, you can regulate it, and you do still need the lawyer's mind. But yeah, I can't imagine my day-to-day office life now without it. I would be
No.
I would be very upset if somebody said we're not going to renew.
Do you know my favorite question when speaking to customers is, what would happen? And maybe I'll just ask you quickly, Adrian, if I took Lexis Plus AI away from you, what's your kind of one sentence answer to me? If you tomorrow it turned out that you no longer had access.
I'd say that's probably a really frustrating. And thank goodness I can still remember how to research. But yeah, it's a useful tool, and it's certainly one that we're growing on. And I would be very disappointed if you were to take it away.
And I don't think, Lindsay, I want to remove your friend, but if I were to take away Lexis Plus AI away from you tomorrow, what would be your view?
Well, yeah, I would be unhappy about it, because my day would get longer, my research more laborious, and my frustration levels higher. So please don't.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, we are coming towards the end. I just want to show everybody one thing. We're going to send this out. There's going to be emails that follow out from this, where you will be able to get links to different information and different pieces that come through. We just want to share with you briefly what is a page that we will share as part of that kind of follow-up. And essentially, it allows you to go through a bit of a thought experiment, really, where if you see the research that we've got that talks about how much faster somebody could be, you can then start to look at it, and then step one, kind of go, look, how much time a week do I spend researching? It could be 10 hours. And how much do I spend drafting? How much do I spend? And then you might go, yeah, look, I do think that 50% faster sounds logistically plausible. Or you might be cynical, and that's fine. You might say 10%. But you can play with what that looks like and see what that kind of hour time looks like. And then you can choose, how would you reuse that? So whether it's 12 hours, is that going to go towards billable hours? What's the billable hour rate? You might decide that you're going to put it up there, and you're going to have a little bit more in these. And it allows you to play down to go, actually, look, how much time are we unlocking to do other tasks, and how much are we using that towards billable hours? What does that look like? Now, it is not an exact tool or an exact science, but it allows you to kind of do that thought experiment, right? Of going, how would I spend the time if this were to be freed up? Not one to overthink with, just have a play around to give you that kind of chance to talk around what does it look like, because it's that investment conversation that we've been having. But I think from here, the kind of most important thing is to say an absolutely huge thank you to both Adrian and excuse me, excuse me, to both Adrian and Lindsay for joining us. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been really insightful. And I'm sure the hundreds of folk that we've had watching along have taken an awful lot out of it. So I want to say a huge thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us. It's been fun.
Yep, thank you.